Hi everyone. I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about some of the miracle stories that are happening right here in our own city, in our own state, every day. My name is Tony Kausha, and the title of our show is Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. Please note, this show is not about religion, and we're not trying to change anyone's religion, and we're not trying to get you to join any religion. It's just about miracle stories. I don't know of any religion on the planet that doesn't talk about miracles. That's why religions begin, because they have something that's telling them there's really a God. But we're not going to get into that. We're going to just talk about miracles and leave the decisions about all that up to you. So we don't care what religion you are. We just want to talk about miracles. If you are an atheist, I think you'll enjoy the program as well, although I can't guarantee you'll remain an atheist very long after you hear many convincing stories, coincidence kinds of stories about miracles. You can email me your own stories if you wish. We'll try to use all we can on the show. I can't guarantee we will, depending on volume and time, but you're welcome to send your stories on to us, and we will mention them when we can. You can send them to the following email address. But please notice that if we do use your story, we won't mention your name. We'll keep you anonymous. And we suggest that in your story, when you send it to us, don't use your correct name. That way anyone listening will not be able to figure out that it was you that sent the story in. The email address you can send your stories to is very easy to remember. It consists of 2 words and 3 numbers. The first word is Tony, spelled Tony, and the second word is and, spelled AND, and the numbers are 777. So once again, the name is Tony and 777 at AOL.com. Well, let us begin. Our first coincidence miracle story today is about a listener who misplaced their credit card when they were out shopping on a weekend. They tell us they had many things to do. They were running around crazy, going to several business places using their credit card. And when they got home that night, they realized they did not have their credit card with them. So they panicked. It was too late for them to do anything. It was after businesses had closed for the day. So they sat down and prayed and asked for wisdom, and they remembered all of the places they went to, made a list. They looked up phone numbers so they could call in the morning, and that's what they did. The next morning, they quickly got on the phone in case someone found the card, or worse, nobody found it, whatever, because they had to decide what to do. And they called several places, and they weren't getting much success. And something came up. They had to rush out on this next day. I guess it must have been on a Sunday. So they had to rush out and do something before they could, finalize this problem. And while they were rushing out to do this next thing, they got inspired as they went by a drugstore that they had stopped in on the prior day, and it was open on a Sunday, thank God. And they went in. They just got inspired to go in and double check. So they went to the counter where they picked up their medications and explained the story. And the people on the other side of the counter realized that they did, handle the phone call where he asked about it earlier. And as he was walking away, the clerk on the other side of the counter said, "Oh, what you might want to do is go down to the other desk where the assistant manager is, because anybody who found the card later, maybe the cleaning service at night, they might have turned it in to them, and you're asking us here because you might have lost it here, but if it was found somewhere else in the store, we would never have seen it here where the prescriptions are filled." So sure enough, they went to the other side where they sell other products besides medications. And sure enough, the card was found by the cleaning service during the night, and it was given to the assistant manager. And so I'm sharing all this story with you because this person was panicked, but they prayed. They asked for wisdom the night before. They made a list. They called all the places the next day, and then they got inspired again while they were driving by the drugstore. And if they didn't do that, if they didn't go in for that inspiration, and then if the person at the counter was not inspired by God to say, hey, wait a minute, why don't you go talk to the assistant manager? All these inspirations you see these people are getting, they're coming from God, and that's what the word inspired means. An inspiration means something comes into you from the Holy Spirit. Inspiration means the Spirit is talking to you. So we're confirming in this whole story that this man or woman, I don't know which, found their card because they followed the inspiration, and furthermore, the clerk at the drugstore followed the inspiration to speak up and say, hey, why don't you check with the assistant manager? Our next coincidence miracle is from a listener who tells us they were driving through a large city during a rush hour, and after going through a few intersections, they got inspired by God to give up the right of way in the next intersection. They're just inspired to do that because they noticed how frantic people were and how stressed they were in this rush hour traffic. Apparently very busy, a lot of traffic in this particular city. And so they did for the next, at the next intersection, they waved the car on, who was coming from the right side, waved it to go by. And as soon as the car went by, they saw the other car that was behind that car. They let the first car go by, but they saw the license plate on the car behind them. And the car behind them had a license plate number 333, which is the number that reminds us of the Blessed Trinity. So they felt inspired by God that they really were inspired to wave the car on, and the reward was that they saw the license plate 333, meaning that the Trinity, the blessings of God, were operating in that moment. They would not have seen the license plate 333 if they did not wave the other car on to take advantage of the intersection. And then they said they moved on to the next intersection and they had the same inspiration on the very next intersection. Apparently it was also very clogged up. So they waved the second car by, and the car behind that car, the second car that came by next, had a license plate number of 555, which is the number that reminds us of the grace of God, the presence of God, and the power of God. It was on the license plate of the car following the second one that the person let by. So I've had this happen to me in my life as well. You get inspired by God, and remember the word inspired is two words. It means incoming of the Spirit. So the Spirit talks to you, inspires you. That's what the word inspired means. It comes into you. The Spirit comes into you. That's why it's called inspired. So you get inspired to do a good thing, and then you get inspired to notice a license plate or a telephone number, and the number signifies something special about God. So you feel like God is patting you on the head or patting you on the shoulder when you see these holy numbers after you've done something that you think He was inspiring you to do. And it's most often it's something good you're doing for somebody else. You're doing somebody else a favor. You're spreading kindness and goodness, and that's why you're getting these numbers that show you the presence of God. So it's like Morse code. You know, God can have these numbers be out there for many people who never pay attention to them, you know. So I encourage you to pay attention when you see holy numbers. Think about what was going on at that moment. The last story reminded me of something that happened to me personally. I had both a doctor's appointment and a car repair appointment, both scheduled for the same day. And, you know, doctors' waiting rooms are not very happy places. People are going in for possible bad news, etc. And certainly car repair waiting rooms are not happy places because people are spending money. So while I was in both places, I got inspired both times to hand out cards about our books and our radio show and our lectures, etc. And I was struggling with, you know, the inspiration to do that because the people looked very gloomy. And once you hand out one card, you have to hand out group, you know, the whole person and not get. So you don't know what the mix of the group is going to be. So I need to be careful when I do that. So I prayed for wisdom, and in both cases I got inspired to do it. And I'm glad I did. We had excellent discussions. People asked some interesting questions, and then there were other people listening in. So we got extra mileage for people. I even had one person at one of the waiting rooms who actually listens to our radio show on Sunday morning. So I'm pointing out that I had something similar happen to me as our prior story. And the reason I did that is because at the end of the day, on the way home, at a certain point, I saw a license plate on a car at an intersection greet me, coming right at me, and the license number was 777, which confirmed for me that, the Holy Spirit was with me in the waiting rooms, and we did something successful. I think about 5 people were affected that day by getting the cards and hearing the stories, and certainly where the other person said they hear us on the radio, that helped the other people listening in to hear about the radio show. So hopefully these weekly radio shows are helping a lot of people out there to at least notice the signs. I mention numbers a lot because they're easy to notice. Their license plates are out there, many license plates with 3 7s, 3 3s, etc. So there's a lot of opportunity, and there's a lot of phone numbers on trucks, so 3 8s, etc. So there's a lot of opportunity to see holy numbers, which may confirm for you that you're having a holy thought at the same moment, or you're doing a holy thing for someone at the same moment as well. Our next sharing tells us they were going to a high-tech store to get some computer equipment, and they always look forward to dealing with the department manager of the place they go to because they, for years, get excellent advice from this person who's managing that section of the store. So they expected all that to happen because every time they go, this department manager helps with excellent advice. And this particular day, as they got to the parking lot before they went into the store, they noticed the manager they deal with most times was leaving, and he was coming out of the store as the person sharing with us was going in. So they're sharing with us what they consider to be a coincidence miracle, because they met the person leaving right at the door as they were going in, so they could get advice from the person before they got to their car and left for the day. So they're sharing with us that in their frame of mind, and based on everything that had happened to them every time they go shopping here, this person gives great advice, and they haven't found anybody with their training and experience like the particular person they look forward to seeing. And so they're sharing with us what they consider was indeed a miracle. And they said when they left for that day, when they left the store, they did see a number. They didn't mention what number it was, but a holy number like 333 or 555. Our next sharing is from a listener who writes to us and tells us that they decided to go to the noon mass at St. Joseph's Cathedral in Hartford one day during the week. During the week they have 12 o'clock masses at St. Joseph's in Hartford, and they have St. Patrick's in Norwich, also noon masses there. And so this person was inspired to go, and they're happy to relate to us that after they went to Mass on the way home, when they pulled out of the driveway, they noticed they were following a car with a plate 777, and then as they pulled up on Route 84 to go home from Hartford, they pulled up on Route 84 and they found that they were in back of a car with a license plate number 999. And both of those numbers, 777 and 999, are holy numbers. 777 is God's number. 999 reminds us of nature and creation. It signifies that God created all things. It's certainly an appreciated clue from heaven when God sends holy numbers after you do something, like you're trying to do something good, or after you go to church or go to Mass and pray, or even if you go into a church and just meditate, God sends you a clue like this. Is certainly a happy moment. God bless you all. I'll talk to you next week.